All right. Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Thanks for stopping by for a quick check of your forecast. Hope you guys are doing well today. It is going to be a hectic afternoon here over the high plains. Unfortunately, we are going to have some high wind and fire concerns for the day today. So first off, thanks for stopping by. And secondly, make sure that you pay attention to the forecast over the next 12 to 24 hours. And you're doing everything in your part to stay away from the activities that could start a fire. Again, for fire officials, it's going to be key today to snuff out a fire that does get going immediately. Otherwise, it's going to spread at a very quick pace with the winds that we'll have ripping across the high plains. Let's take a quick look at our current conditions. Most of us in the 40s and 50s right now. We've got quite a bit of cloud cover kind of exiting the area. Those winds, you can see where it's clearing out, already starting to pick up out over I-25 and the Sierra, Sierra Grande, or Sangre de Cristo Mountains. I'm sorry. I'm getting the California stuff mixed up with the New Mexico stuff. But Sangre de Cristo Mountains seeing some strong winds today. Here's a look at your water vapor imagery. You can see some snow falling in the mountains of Colorado, a little bit of light precipitation being depicted near Dodge City this morning. The circulation of that upper level low is directly, almost in the smack dab center of Colorado. Unfortunately, that passes to our north. And the underbelly of this system going to have some strong winds with it. So it is going to be an extremely windy day here in the high plains. When we're talking about windy conditions here in Amarillo, you know it's going to be a very hectic afternoon. We've got high wind warnings in the yellow. In the blue, those are the wind advisories, and there's still some talk over at the National Weather Service office in Amarillo of potentially expanding this for places like Lipscomb and Hemphill County in the northeast Texas Panhandle when the cold front comes through tonight. That's also going to bring in some strong winds with it. Those will be mostly from the north, northwest, rather than the west. For the moment, though, Canadian, you guys not in any kind of wind headline. You guys escaping that for a majority of the day until maybe later on tonight. But these will be in effect starting at 9 a.m. in New Mexico, lasting through 7 o'clock this evening. For the Panhandles, that will be from 11 to 9 o'clock late tonight. So again, that kind of includes the cold front coming through this evening as well. Hey, David and Shelly, thanks for tuning in. Winds are going to be stronger the further west you get. Most of us will be gusting between 50 and 65 miles per hour, and then some 40 to 50 mile per hour winds gusts anywhere for places like Perryton, Pampa, Clarendon, Shamrock, Silverton, Kittiquay, Turkey. All of it's going to be very windy, though, and those winds will be mostly directly out of the west. And so if you're going to be traveling on north and southbound roads, it's going to be very difficult in a high-profile vehicle. We've seen this in the past where if you're not paying much attention and you really just kind of think that you're okay. I know we don't live next to the mountains, but it can get very windy here if you're pulling a tractor trailer or some of those trailers with a high profile on them. So just keep that in mind for places like Highway 385, I-27, east and west sides of the loop here in Amarillo, 207 in the eastern Panhandle, 136. Again, portions of that do travel pretty north and south. So it's something to certainly think about if you're going to be hitting the road. We're going to have some blowing dust as well. That's going to reduce some visibilities in some localized areas, and it could be significantly reduced in those localized areas next to some tilled fields. So just keep that in mind also. Burn bans, not everyone under one. Most of us, about 18 counties under a burn ban right now, but we are very dry area wide. We will have red flag warnings across the entire area. We like to call them fire weather warnings. Some people don't necessarily understand what red flag means, but it just means the winds are very high. Conditions for a fire to spread are there. Does not forecast fires erupting. It just forecasts the conditions for it. So they're going to be ripe. They're going to be primed today. If a fire gets going, it's going to spread at a very fast pace. Those will be in effect from 8 to 6 for New Mexico and from 11 to 8 here in the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandles. We're talking solid critical fire conditions everywhere in that darker red region you see on the graphic. That's where we're going to have extremely critical fire conditions, not extreme fire conditions, extremely critical. And so that's that stage in between critical and extreme. But winds are going to be sustained at 25 to 40, more than likely around 40 at some point this afternoon, gusting to 65 miles per hour from the west-southwest with humidity values around 15 to 25 miles per hour. So here's what the dog walk forecast looks like today. Well, temperature-wise, we'll be a little colder today than we were yesterday. We got to 73 here in Amarillo, was a degree shy of our record high temperature. and then we'll end up in the 60s this afternoon. Still warmer than average, but not to the point where we were on Tuesday. So the cloud cover you see this morning, that's going to be clearing out of here with this next trough coming through. Again, you're going to see the clouds clear out before lunchtime, probably here in Amarillo, and that's when we'll start to see the winds really start to pick up here with that low-level jet. We'll get some efficient mixing, and then that ends up really causing us a big nuisance here for travel concerns and the fire issues. As we move into the evening hours, that cold front likely going to get to not to Amarillo, to the Oklahoma Panhandle around 4 or 5 o'clock this evening. And again, it could pack winds are gusting above 50 and maybe even above 60 miles per hour this evening. We've been so dry, I honestly would not be shocked if it brings in a wall of dust with it as well, kind of a haboob or a dust bowl looking kind of weather feature coming through this evening. It should get to Amarillo around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock this evening. It will be dark when it gets here, but again, it's probably going to bring in some dust and some high winds with it as well. It's going to spill in some seasonal weather for our Thursday, and the good news is the winds will start to die down after midnight tonight, and then we'll really start to see a calm and quiet day on Thursday, just a lot colder than we have been compared to where we've been recently. Temperatures actually seasonal on Thursday in the upper 40s and low 50s, but thankfully winds will be light, anywhere from 10 to 20 miles per hour tomorrow, rather than in that 40 to 50 mile per hour range today. So your temperature outlook for the extended forecast looking like this. Hey Diane, thanks for tuning in. James and Virginia as well. We're going to be above average for our temperatures for the foreseeable future. Now, there are going to be some cutoff lows that come across the desert southwest over the next several weeks, and so that is something that we're going to have to at least monitor. The Climate Prediction Center is starting to grow confidence in seeing above average precipitation for us between the 16th and the 20th. That does kind of extend into the 8 to 14 day outlook as well. You can see that big spot of blue in the western U.S. That is that upper level low that we're depicting later in the month. That tends to introduce what we call Lee cyclogenesis here in the weather world, and that just means that we're getting surface lows to develop in eastern Colorado or just off to our west. If we get those to track or develop far enough south, sometimes they can bring us some precipitation, but a lot of the times they do bring us fire weather. Again, it doesn't take much of a difference in track location for these lows to put us in precipitation or to keep us out of it and in those fire conditions like we're seeing today. So this is something that we'll just have to keep an eye on over the next 2 weeks. We'll have several systems come through. It looks like they will be windy. Whether or not they bring in any precipitation, still kind of an unknown, but there is at least some thoughts out there floating around that we might get some moisture towards the end of the month. Here's your highs for today. A lot of 60s area wide. We'll be in the 70s for Childress and Paducah, 50s for Dalhart, Clayton, and Boise City. Lows tonight behind the front. Winds will slowly start to die down. It'll be probably a little breezy in the morning as you open the front door. Winds probably sustained at 20 miles per hour, and then they die down throughout the day, and they become fairly quiet and calm in the evening and afternoon hours. Temperature-wise, a lot of us will climb into the low 50s on our Thursday. It does not last very long, though. We'll be seasonal again Friday morning, and then by Friday afternoon, temperatures are back up above normal in the low 60s. The winds should be light around 10 to 15 on Friday. Should be a nice chance to spend some time outside. Saturday, probably as well. A little bit warmer. Winds a little stronger. Sunday and Monday, keeping an eye on it. It's going to be at least breezy. Whether or not it becomes really windy, something that's just kind of too low in confidence right now to talk too much about. But notice 10% chance of moisture Monday and Tuesday. It's not a good chance. It's a terrible chance in my opinion, but at least it's better than zero. So it's something to keep in mind. All right, that looks like that's all we've got for you guys. Again, it is a weather alert day for us here in Amarillo at the KVII Storm Surge 7 Weather Center. So just make sure that you are being cautious if you're going to be out and about. Again, we've got high wind warnings for over half the area today. That means winds will be sustained at 40 miles per hour, gusting even higher than that. So if your county is in yellow, that is where you're going to be having some difficulties traveling in those high profile vehicles. For the Oklahoma Panhandle, this is more so for the cold front coming through tonight rather than for the west winds that we'll have today. Most of the strong winds should be in New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle. And then we'll end up seeing some strong winds out of the north-northwest for you guys up there in Cimarron and Texas County. If you're in the blue, like Pampa, Clarendon, Silverton, you guys not quite as strong of winds, but still going to be a nuisance today. Wind advisories for you guys from 9 to 7 in New Mexico for Union County, or from 11 to 9 here in the Texas Panhandle. Again, we're talking about winds gusting up to 65 miles per hour. that is going to cause you some issues traveling out there. So just make sure you're being mindful about what you do. Again, 85% of our wildfires also human caused. So if we can do our part to keep fires from erupting or developing, it should be a very quiet day today. But again, that means that you've got to pay attention to what you're doing. Two of our big issues here are cigarette butts being thrown out of the vehicle and they end up in the ditch and they're not completely extinguished. Just put them in the ashtray, and then you can take them out once you get to your destination. Another thing is people pulling trailers. If you've got a trailer with the tow chains dragging the ground, that creates sparks. That ends up in the ditch. And if there's fuel there, like grasses, it can catch on fire and spread very quickly. Or if you're dragging metal or something on that trailer, that's also another reason why we end up seeing fires pop up. And a lot of the times, those people don't know it until they look in their rearview mirror 5 or 10 miles later, and they're like, wow, there's a lot of smoke back behind me. So just make sure that you're paying attention before you leave with that trailer and whatnot, and make sure that those chains aren't going to drag the ground today. That's all I got for you guys. Make sure you stay weather aware. We'll have your next update coming up at 11:30.